And we're back. This is the great classic rock debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul with zero qualifications.
And I'm Steve.
We talk anything, everything classic rock. We try to keep it interesting. We try to have fun. If you're watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Share it with your friends. Okay, fellas, let's get right into it. Several weeks back, you guys both saw the new movie, Becoming Led Zeppelin. I still haven't seen it. And if it was streaming, I would have seen it. But getting to a movie theater is very difficult. It's very tough for me. So, but anyway, you guys both gave it rave reviews. We talked about it. We got a bunch of views on that and some commentary. So what I'd like to do is, I don't want to stay on the movie, but I do want to transition. We're going to sort of stay with the Led Zeppelin theme. We're gonna transition over into Robert Plant, okay? The voice of Led Zeppelin. And he cut his first album in '82, which would have been about 2 years after Coda, Led Zeppelin's final album, okay? So I think it's fair to say that at that time, Steve, it's not fair to you because you were a little young, but Paul can say it. There was a really enormous expectation, wasn't there? I mean, weren't we all kind of waiting, like, is this going to be Led Zeppelin 12 or whatever, you know? I know that I was really geared up and excited for the release of that album, which I think it was summer. I think I bought that in the summer of '82. Do you recall?
It says June 25th, '82.
Oh, okay.
Good job.
Well, there you go. Okay. All right. So anyway, so let's put a few minutes into talking about that album. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move on back to a topic from a few weeks ago, which we call Desert Island Classic Rock. We won't go into all that, but we had some unfinished business on that topic. All right, so let's start with Robert Plant. Does anybody want to go first, or should I? Because I'm the older. I'm the elder statesman.
Go ahead, Ken, and I'll play off whatever you say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So
Steve can go too.
All right, so here's what I'll say. The '70s absolutely belonged to Led Zeppelin. There's lots of other rock bands, but any genuine, sincere rock fan from the '70s will tell you that Led Zeppelin was at the top of that mountain, okay? And other bands tried to measure up to them, but it was Led Zeppelin. So when Bonham died in '79, and then in '80 they released Coda, which was sort of, wasn't that some like leftover tracks?
Yes, absolutely.
It was all, yeah.
For like 4 or 5 different albums.
Whatnot.
Right. Okay. So then it was officially the end, because the band members, the remaining 3 band members, said, we will not do another Led Zeppelin album out of respect and love for John Bonham, right? So we'll still work on other music projects, but we're not going to do another Led Zeppelin album. Of course, that news was met with mixed feelings, because a lot of people were saying, hey, just go hire Phil Collins and do another.
No.
Yeah, no. I agree. So, but there was mixed feelings about it, because a lot of people were saying, yeah, you can still do it. So anyway, when it was announced that Robert Plant had his first solo album coming up, there was a lot of anticipation and a lot of excitement among the Led Zeppelin fan base. And I know I was excited. I couldn't wait, because in my mind, and keep in mind, I was 21 at the time. All right. So not that 21 is an excuse to be young and stupid, but your mind thinks a certain way.
Is.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, okay. All right. Well, when I need it to be, it's a good excuse. So I was really anticipating, I hate to use this phrase, a continuation of Led Zeppelin. Like, he's going to deliver something that's going to sound an awful lot like Led Zeppelin. And in my mind, they had set the bar. Led Zeppelin had already set the bar that I wanted him to measure up to. Okay. So the album is released, Pictures at 11. That's the name of it. It's released in June of 1982. I go and I buy the album. My habit back in those days was to record an entire new album on one side of a 90-minute cassette tape. So that's 45 minutes. And then I could just play the cassette tape over and over again, which I did. And my feelings at that time was, it's a pretty good album. with a lot of really good songs, several that were very Zeppelin-esque and others not so much. But I didn't feel like there was anything there that really measured up to that Led Zeppelin bar. Okay, even you know, there's a fine line between a great song and a timeless classic song, and I just felt like these songs were really good, but they didn't quite measure up to that. So I probably unfairly did not give the album as much credit as it probably deserved. And I say that because I went back today and re-listened to it all the way through to sort of refresh myself. And I was going, wow, some of these songs are great. And I don't think I gave them a fair shot way back when. And as I'm listening to it, of course, all I can think of is, once again, classic rock radio has failed us, because there are so many songs on this first Robert Plant album that are so worthy of airplay on a classic rock rotation, yet they don't play any of these songs. So that's my starting point. Go from there.
Well, okay, Steve, let me go, and then you can jump on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So remember, part of the demise of Led Zeppelin was Jimmy Page back then was in the occult. And there was all these things. He lived at, I think he bought Aleister Crowley's castle and all this macabre crap.
Right.
So things started to happen. Robert Plant's son, Karak, died. And then they had a car crash. And I think there was something else. I can't remember. Steve is good at this too.
Well, he broke his ankle, so he couldn't.
Yeah, the car crash.
Yeah, because of the car crash.
And then they were still his presence. He sang that album with a broken ankle and leg or whatever he had. Robert Plant.
Right. I mean, that's part of the reason why the late half of the 70s, there were longer periods between albums where they were putting out one a year.
And so, you know how things, now I don't know Robert Plant, never met him, never met Page or Jones or obviously Bonham, but I think some of it got in their heads. And so not only did they, out of respect, I think there was something like we can't keep doing Led Zeppelin because we've made something, Satan got angry. I just believe they'll never admit that.
Okay.
And Bonham is, we don't have to talk. We could go for 800 years about how a great drummer he is. And he had something. So this album went back. Like I just bought the Band of Joy album 2 weeks ago. And I listened to it. And there's similarities between this album and you were a Plant by himself as a folky, bluesy guy.
Right.
Right. And he is not, that Led Zeppelin was pulled out of him, but that's not all of him.
Right.
So that's why this album started. And I haven't heard this album since, like, I think I heard it when you and I first met. Was that September of 1982?
81 was you and I
met in 81.
Yeah.
Okay, so that next year, I remember I had this. I think I don't know where it went. Someone took it from me. I had this album. I played it 5 million times.
Right.
But I remember liking it, not loving it. But then again, they were called Led Zeppelin for a reason. They had these four of the greatest people together. And synergy is a weird word.
Yes, but it's so applicable because you can replace talent, but you're not going to get that same synergy, and it's not going to work. It's not going to.
You like some guys will take a back seat. John Bonham says, "Look, my drumming speaks for itself." John Paul Jones, my great bass playing, same with Page and Plant. So they all could just go in together. And I saw the same thing in the Beatles, how they all kind of fit. So now Robert Plant, think about if you're Robert Plant. I saw Cozy Powell, a great drummer, played on drum, and Phil Collins. So all these guys are like, look, I'm Phil Collins. I'm pretty great, but this is Robert Plant. So I don't know how those things, if it was the same democratic process of Led Zeppelin, I was never, that thing with the Beatles, that 3-day thing where the Beatles have like this democratic that was so fascinating. So I'd like to have seen that with Led Zeppelin. I wonder if that even exists anywhere. Steve may know, and maybe that'll come on the next version of this becoming Led Zeppelin. But and I think Plant, I mean, this album sold pretty doggone well.
Yeah.
And
again, there was a lot of anticipation. The album, I'm pretty sure, went straight to #1 on the album charts. It didn't stay there all that long, but it sold huge at its first release. But it rock, we didn't call it classic. In 1982, rock stations were not called classic rock; they were just called rock, and they weren't playing it a lot. And that, the lead track on there, "Burning Down One Side," to me, that was the most Led Zeppelin sounding of the entire album. So it was a great way to lead you in to the album because you're starting off with some very familiar territory there.
All right, Steve, go ahead, buddy.
Well, so a couple things. I agree mostly with what you guys were saying. Partly, my assumption why it never really picked up on the rock stations at the time, and again, I was a kid, so I probably never heard it if it was on the radio then, was because if you think about it, Led Zeppelin, band of the late 60s, early 70s, probably at that time, maybe the radio station were saying, these guys are not hip anymore, in the sense that we are trying to, bring in a different audience, a younger audience, or whatever was playing at that time. Kansas. Think of kind of the hits
Steve,
during the early 80s.
Let me add this thought real quick, Steve. The 80s did usher in a whole new era of not just a new sound, but a lot of new artists. There was like a second British invasion in the 80s. And so, there's a
new wave.
Yeah. But there were also a lot of, not just the new wave there was, but there's a lot of other rock bands too. And so what you're saying holds true. It really does. And I didn't think about that, but you're right.
So the other thing I was going to say is this record sounds like a continuation of In Through the Outdoor. Plant's vocals sound, it was almost, I know Page didn't produce it,
right?
But it was almost as if Robert Plant had produced In Through the Outdoor and produced this record.
That's a good comment.
11. However, I will say the one thing that is missing or actually two things that are missing from this record that really set it apart from In Through the Outdoor is not Jimmy Page. It's the rhythm section. You can tell this album specifically is really missing the key component of Led Zeppelin, which is Bonham and Jones.
Jonesy.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Because In Through the Outdoor is sort of recognized as John Paul Jones's kind of signature album.
Right.
And but the
keyboards,
some of Bonham's best drumming work as well on that record. If you kind of listen to like Fool in the Rain, it seems like a very simple drum pattern, but
I couldn't agree more, Steve.
It's not. Yeah.
It is not. It is awesome.
Yeah.
So not to go back to, In Through the Outdoor, but it just my favorite song off this record is The Moonlight and Samosa, which I've never heard on the radio, but that's probably the best song on that record.
It's fantastic. And let me say this. In 1982, I had never heard of the band The Scorpions. Okay. I know they did exist because they've been around since the 70s, but I had never heard of them. I didn't hear of them until probably 83 or 84 when they started to become popular on MTV. But when I go back and listen to Moonlight and Samosa, listen to the opening guitar work, it's like, oh my God, it sounds just like the Scorpions. And I'm going to guess the Scorpions probably listened to that and said, hey, let's use some of that. But that's the first thing I thought when I listened to it. That is a brilliant song. I mean, what a great song. Standout track as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I think it's the best song on the record.
Yeah.
But this, I was thinking about this the other day because I saw the Live Aid performance of Led Zeppelin.
Right.
And I just thought, had I been old enough then, I was 8 years old, I think, when that performance, I didn't know who Led Zeppelin was. I didn't see it originally.
Right.
But I probably would have been really disappointed. And I don't think if Bonham had not passed away, they wouldn't have been the same band, and I don't even know if I would have liked anything that they had produced in the 80s. And I like Plant's solo records, but I would have had a hard time watching or listening to them and saying, that's Led Zeppelin. I just felt like they had changed by the time In Through the Outdoor, which again is a great record, but I think
all the bands, Kiss released a disco album. What's that song? I was made for loving you.
Made for loving you. Yeah.
And that's a good song. I love that song though.
But I'm just saying, all these bands, they kind of whimpered down a little bit, except for Sabbath, who released
Yeah.
Heaven and
Right.
Hell and
Well, I
it
think they
passed.
were maybe they were pressured by because of MTV. I mean, if you look at the way they dress, even Page and Plant
Yes,
were dressed, you're like, oh, that's
that's
they
Miami
look like
Vice
Brian
almost.
May.
Right.
You know,
Well, culturally, yes. You had disco, you had new wave, and you had
Punk.
MTV. Yeah, punk. You had these things going on, so it's hard to not be influenced by such profound existing influences that are pounding on you, So yeah.
Stevie made a really good comment about Jonesy, like Carousel Alhambra is just this giant keyboard thing, right? And if you think about not, and I know Steve loves Rush, but Rush, I think when moving pictures, I think is when Geddy Lee started with a damn synthesizer for the next 15 years. And so all these bands started trying to get rid because they thought that sound was going away, and they probably heard some bad advice, like Steve was saying, or you guys are saying from the record executives. But
well,
anyway,
it's funny you say that about Carousel Alhambra because I think like In Through the Outdoor in its entirety is probably their most underrated record. And
Yeah.
that track itself is so underrated. In fact, that was probably for a long time that was the only song of theirs that I did not like.
Yeah, you
And
said
probably in the
that. Yeah.
last 15 years, it's really grown on me, and it's
Yeah.
actually now one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Same with Hot Dog on that.
oh, Hot
Yeah.
Dog is blistering.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know.
One thing I want to say about that album, if you're going to listen to it loud and
You're
with
talking
good
about Plant.
speakers.
You're talking about Robert Plant.
No, I meant to say Into the
Into
Outdoor.
that door.
Sorry.
Okay, all right. Just
Just
making.
listen to that loud because it comes alive loud. If you hear it like through your speakers, it just
Right.
You
All right,
have
back
to
to
listen
Robert
to the
Plant.
rhythm. You have to listen to the bass and
Yes.
drums.
Yeah. But Robert Plant, I think about what he had to do, like leave the greatest band of all time and go
Right.
out on his own. You remember the pressure that man was under to,
Yes.
Oh yeah,
to
I can only imagine what he was thinking is that trying to live up to him, and it's just him. He doesn't really have
Right.
three other members to really you know bounce things off of, and of course it's kind of like George Lucas with the prequel trilogy.
Right.
there,
Right.
there were probably everybody was a yes man. There was
Yeah.
nobody saying you might want to rethink that.
Yeah.
Jar
So
Jar Binks.
yeah.
Right.
But I'm saying even with Plant, like most of the songwriting, I'm assuming was up to him. And if you're still at that time, Phil Collins was probably relatively sort of unknown, but coming onto the scene. At
Well, he
least,
was Genesis, so yeah, I mean,
yeah,
he was
Genesis. But he wasn't. I don't think he was a household name at that point. So even if I was Phil Collins, I would still have a hard time telling Robert Plant like
He was a household name because in '81 he released his first solo
Okay.
album, and In the Air Tonight was enormous.
that's
Oh my
okay.
God.
If that came out.
So by '82, yes, he was a household
But
name.
think of it this way: Led Zeppelin met Elvis in the kind of the peak of their career,
Right.
and they still felt like I'm talking to God, like
Right.
exactly.
So
Right.
it would be like, not that I'm comparing myself to Phil Collins, but like if I were to meet Robert Plant, like I wouldn't tell him like thing one about either songwriting or singing or
Right.
Right.
But yeah, okay. So all right, let's move on to our other
Okay. Well,
topic.
hold on. Just
Oh,
one last thing.
sorry.
So I just want to add a couple of final thoughts, and you guys please feel free. So, in retrospect, because I have not listened to this album in years, man, it is so much better than I remembered it being. And I just played it through one time today and was going, wow, these songs are better than I remembered. So I just want to give it the highest recommendation. And
Absolutely.
for those who are not that familiar with Plant's first solo album, and he made several good ones, but I honestly, I believe this is the best one. That's just opinion, of course, but give it a listen. Be open-minded. Don't get yourself into a narrow Zeppelin mindset. Just be open-minded and listen to it. These are great songs. And this kid, Robbie Blunt, I guess was his name, who
Yes.
played guitar in there. He's good. He's
Very,
really
very
good.
good.
Yeah, he's not Jimmy Page, but Page had his own style that nobody's ever going to duplicate. But this guy's good, really is. Final thoughts. All right, go ahead.
I would say it's a great album. It's not to me, it's not my favorite Plant solo album.
Okay.
It's better than, what was the follow-up, Principles of Movement, which there are a couple of bigger songs on that record. that got a lot more radio play and probably
What
maybe still do on classic rock.
what
Yeah,
about Big Log? Which album
yeah.
was that on?
That
I
was
think it was on,
that was on. It was called not the principle of. It was called. Oh man, I got the principle of moments.
yeah, Principal.
Moments.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
yeah.
it was on that record. That's probably his biggest radio hit of the
It
80s.
was, and it was
But
very All My Love esque. It had a similar vibe to
Yeah.
that.
But I also liked, okay, we could talk about that another time, but I also
Now and
really,
Then is a great record too.
Is that
So
the
Jimmy
big-
Page played on that as well.
Okay,
is that got, what do you call it? Tall, Cool One?
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I love that song.
I could tell you, I blew out many speakers to that record, especially Tall Cool One.
At the end of that song, you start to realize people are like, hold on, what's that? That's all the Led Zeppelin, like 10 Led Zeppelin songs crammed together in 30
Yes.
seconds or a minute. And you're like,
Yeah.
wow. That
Right.
was
And
very
Page
cool.
played on that
Oh,
track.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
why it's such a nice. It's got
Yeah.
a good, solid guitar track. So
yeah. Okay, if you guys don't have anything further on Robert Plant, we will move on into our Desert Island classic rock space alien theme. So, who wants to go?
Well, let's start with Aerosmith.
Okay.
Steve, go ahead. You go first.
Oh man,
What song is most representative of Aerosmith? Not necessarily your favorite Aerosmith song.
Yeah,
Right. And remember, I want to just not that this is a hard rule, but I think that you guys will agree. It should almost never be a ballad because a ballad is never going to represent the body of work of a rock band.
Yeah.
They can make great ballads, but that's not going to represent their body. That's
So no, Janie's Got a Gun? No?
is that a ballad?
I don't like
Kidding.
that song.
I don't know what it is either. Go
I
ahead.
am
Steve.
very
I do
torn.
like it, but all right.
I'm
Go ahead,
torn
Steve.
about this. The song that I'm going to list is not my favorite song of theirs, but most representative of them. And I knew you guys were going to go with Aerosmith. So I'm sort of torn. I don't want to say Sweet Emotion because that seems too obvious, at least to me. But I'm torn between that and Walk This Way. And so maybe I might lean more towards Walk This. I'm going to go with Sweet Emotion as far as representative of Aerosmith. Not my favorite song of theirs. But I'm going to go with that because the guitar track is really good. I feel like Aerosmith was kind of at the height of their game in did that come out on Rocks?
I can't remember anymore.
That-
70. Go ahead, Steve. I'll
75?
take it.
Chronologically, that was their peak, I believe. And not to knock their late 80s, early 90s comeback, but that Sweet Emotion period, that was their peak, I think. I feel like
Yeah.
it was.
So I'm gonna go with that. I mean, there's so many great guitar. There's the breakdown towards the end.
Oh my God.
It's so good. Everybody's at the height of it.
Yeah, it's excellent.
And also, this goes back to to Led Zeppelin in some regards. My wife and I, when we saw the Led Zeppelin documentary again, we just both said, like, how many bands out there? What was the last band? And in my mind, it's Aerosmith, where you could sort of name every member of the band, or like most people in the public knew, other than like Steven Tyler. Like most people recognize maybe one member of a band, but there's very few bands anymore where they recognize, like, they know that everybody in the band is sort of maybe not a household name, but a lot of people recognize it. And so Aerosmith may be kind of the last band that I can think of where that
I think U2, that's for me, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get us down a rabbit hole, but it just
No, it's okay.
occurred to me.
All right, Kenny, go ahead, buddy.
Okay. If I'm going to go Aerosmith, you know what? It's not my favorite Aerosmith song, but I do think it's representative of them, and that's Mamakin, which, by the way,
Why didn't I pick that?
yeah, which by the way, wasn't that remade by Guns N' Roses or somebody?
Yes,
did
it
it?
was.
Yeah.
It's on GNR Lies.
It's
Yeah.
it's a hard rocking song, and it was actually
It's a
recorded
cover.
before. Aerosmith's version is a cover?
I thought it
I
was.
thought it was, yeah.
Oh. If Aerosmith's version is a cover, I didn't know that. Maybe it
Or
is.
maybe I'm thinking of Train Kept It Rolling.
No,
That's a
definitely a
cover.
cover.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
cover.
5,000
Yeah.
years old.
Yeah.
But Mama Kin is a good hard rock song. Aerosmith was not yet well known at the time they recorded that. But if you go back and listen to it now, it checks all the boxes and shows why in their early stages, they were moving up the ranks.
It is not a cover. I just checked.
Okay.
Yeah, it's theirs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's excellent.
Yeah.
And they got away with saying some, naughty word, which is a big deal back then.
Yes.
The way I
Yes.
see it, you got to say shit like
Right.
that.
Right. Hey guys, we just got our warning, but that's okay. We've got about 8 minutes. Not have to kill it, but just keep that in mind as we're moving on.
Okay, this is hard, man, because I think most representative for me is Dream On.
Right.
It's kind of like it builds, it got a crescendo.
Correct.
And it got a reliving in my brain because Kitty and I went to see the movie Miracle about the U.S. hockey
Oh
team in
my
19.
God. Yeah.
And they played it at the end with the credits, and you just want to you're like gonna fly out of your seat.
Well, it was also on the last Action Hero soundtrack too.
Oh, was it? Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, so it kind of got a resurgence in the early 90s.
It's a great song.
I will say this. I think I've said this before. I had friends in high school when they first heard that song, or I played it for them. They would not believe that it was Steven Tyler singing.
Oh, really?
Because they
His voice
knew
has changed.
Steven Tyler they knew the voice from Pump and
Dude
Get
Looks
a
Like a
Grip.
Lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the Aerosmith they knew.
Okay.
And nobody believed me that it was Steven Tyler. I'm like, hey, I didn't record it.
Right.
Here's the album. So
No, Dream On it's a phenomenal, it's a classic rock song. And it sets the bar very high. It's about as good as a song gets. Yeah.
All right. What's our next band?
Well, here you got.
Can I ask you real quick? What's your favorite Aerosmith song? Then you picked their kind of the most representative.
Kings and Queens is my favorite. That is a badass. That is. It doesn't even sound like. It reminds me of Neon Nights by Sabbath and the mythology, what it talks about, and it's dry. Oh man, that's my favorite Aerosmith by far. But that's just my opinion.
I would choose Dream On personally. I just think it's that good.
It's a great song. Yeah. Steve?
You're gonna kill me for this, but it's probably What It Takes, which is
That's a good song.
Yeah.
Was that Pump? I think it's more of a ballad, but yeah, that's probably my favorite song of theirs. So
no, it's a good song.
It is a good song.
Probably number 2. So.
And if Aerosmith does a ballad, it's not soft. Their ballads are not soft. So, it's a different thing. Okay, so you guys know that this is my go-to band when we have these sort of discussions. So I'm going to put out the Allman Brothers. And, stylistically, they combined so many different influences, jazz and blues and soul and country and rock. There was so much going on there. So it's easy to choose 2 or 3 different songs that don't sound anything alike. So for me, the choice that I'm making here, it really combines a lot of blues and a lot of rock and a lot of soul. I'm going to go with Whipping Post. So I remember the first time I ever heard a song, it sent chills up my spine. I was just like, wow, that is an amazing song. So, and I think it really represents their at least as far as rock goes, their body of work. And it sounds nothing like Ramblin' Man, I know, but
yeah.
Steve,
are we doing Desert Island Allman Brothers or just Desert Island songs? So
well,
the most representative.
If you could pick a song by them, not necessarily their biggest hit, but a song that if somebody said, I don't know anything about this band, and you could recommend this one song and say, listen to this, and you will have an understanding of what their work sounds like.
Well, then it would be Blue Sky for me. That is definitively, for me, one of my top 5 favorite songs of all time by any band. So
it's a great song. Yeah.
My wife doesn't get it. I was listening to it with her in the car the other day, and she's like, all they do is this one of those jam bands? She's like, this is worse than, she's like, the Grateful Dead is worse. And I'm like, whoa. Of course, the Grateful Dead is worse,
right?
But I'm like, you were talking about one of the greatest guitar players of all time here, and the tone that Dickie Betts has on that. Oh, I just love it, and the sound of his Les Paul. Oh, it's so good. So I could listen to that song on repeat for probably an hour and never get tired of it.
I agree. It's phenomenal. I agree. Paul, what do you
Normally, my
got?
wife has great taste. The
Okay,
fact that she hates hippie jam band people,
Right.
it's really the fans more than anything else.
Right.
okay. You guys are gonna both laugh at me. I'm not the biggest Almond fan, brothers.
Okay.
Who is their song? You go, I don't own the shirt that I'm wearing. What's that song called?
Uh,
I don't own the shirt I'm wearing. Maybe that's not the Allman Brothers, or is it?
Is that? Seems like it's a Dire Straits song, but
No, it's a down, 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 down. That's the riff.
oh,
I thought that was Allman Brothers.
I think it is, but now I'm trying to remember what song that is.
Because
I'm not. I can't think of the song.
I thought it was.
It is the Allman
Oh,
Brothers, but I cannot.
oh, I
think
know
of
what song you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't think of what song it is, but yeah, that's the Allman Brothers.
I really, because they play that in classic rock quite a bit, or they
Yes.
used to.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Whatever that song is, that's my favorite one.
Okay. Okay.
Because I gotta have singing.
Oh,
Otherwise, what's this?
that's Midnight Rider, isn't it?
No.
Yeah. No, it
No.
is an Allman Brothers song.
Yeah.
I don't.
Otherwise, what's the song called? Is it Jessica? That's an instrumental.
That's
Or am I got-
instrumental. But I swear that's
Jessica-
Midnight Rider. That lyric is in Midnight Rider.
No.
Yeah, hold on.
Jessica is more in the same vein as Blue Sky. And you know that song Melissa is a great song, but it's not representative of their body of work.
Right.
That's a great song.
Yeah, I don't own the clothes I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Is that the name of the song?
No, that's the lyric in Midnight Rider.
Okay.
But that's not the song that he's, because when you started humming it a second ago, I said, okay, I know what song that is.
I think that was I got the melody. I think that was the melody he was referring to, but I could be wrong. But
It's
Okay.
down, 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 down.
yeah,
Down, down, down. Yeah.
Oh, that is. Okay. Yeah.
That's
That's
Midnight
it.
Rider.
That's it. Midnight Rider. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
my favorite. That's
I'm
my
not going to let
Okay.
him catch the Midnight Rider.
Yeah. That is
that's
a great song. And by the way, recorded originally by the Allman Brothers, but Greg Allman then did it on his solo album and it became a big hit. You know, the Allman Brothers version wasn't a hit. Both versions are really, really good.
Oh wow! See, I just
I
learned
don't think I've
something.
heard the re-recorded version of it.
Yeah. Well, the version that you're more likely to hear on a classic rock station is the Greg Allman version, the solo version.
Oh wow!
Yeah. But they're not radically different. And his
Okay.
became a hit. The original didn't. So for what it's worth.
Okay.
Wow! All right.
Anyway, Paul, great choice. That's a great song.
2
Okay,
Okay,
minutes.
where we going? Let me check the clock real quick. Hang on a second. Oh, we got less than a minute. No. We got 2 minutes. So we're gonna have to wrap it up. Anybody have any final thoughts, closing thoughts or comments or anything?
Robert Plant has what, like 6 or 7 solo albums if you count the Alison Krauss. Is
He's
that
probably
right?
got more than that. Yeah.
Something
Speaking of
like
which, have you guys listened to that?
I have
Any of
not.
those?
One of them I have.
They're okay. I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but you know, I give him a lot of credit for he's the type of guy who's like, hey, I've done everything. I'll do whatever I want to do now.
Right. Yeah. He's not going to
Exactly.
be pigeonholed. Yeah, I know. I respect that.
I think he feels like old guys should not be rockers. And I think maybe he's a little bit of afraid of like the image. And I know there are some people that think that. I have no qualms about it. And I love the Celebration Day recording from 2007. Again, the rhythm section of that is phenomenal. And like they didn't miss a beat. So I would love to see one more go at it with Jason Bonham on drums.
I wonder if you talk to Jonesy, say, hey, what was it like to have Jason back there? Was it a carbon copy or, because I'm always fascinated by genetics, what passed down, like that's one of the most fascinating things to me of any topic of human existence is what gets passed down, what doesn't get passed down. How come Michael Jordan doesn't have any sons that are very good at basketball?
Right.
1 minute. I don't know. They
I
didn't
mean,
have to
think
work
about
for it.
Ken Griffey, a Hall of Fame baseball player. His son is even a better player, but that's very rare.
Rare. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you see last week Tiger Woods' son hit a hole in one?
I didn't see it.
Holy crap! Watching that guy swing, he's only like 15. I
Yeah.
mean, that swing. Okay, he got his dad's talent. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
It's fascinating. So Jason Bonham, yeah, I got to, my wife got it so I could meet him. He was really cool.